Well, I wouldn't say I've risen from my sick bed to talk with Pat+Jude, but something close to that, something fairly close. How are you? You feeling well this morning, Pat? You don't feel any tremors?
I'm absolute.
Huh?
No, no. By the way, is see when you reach a certain age, you seem to spend more of your time talking about medical conditions. You know,
Yeah, did you ever notice
I think about.
did you
Go
ever
ahead.
notice the way they call things the opposite of what they should call them? Like they talk about a health center, but they
What do you
really
mean?
mean a sickness
Uh,
center. And they talk about defense
yeah,
forces or the defense department, and they really mean the attack
uh,
department.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you know, no. Nowadays, when you get talking to somebody, they start talking about oh, I've got a leg problem or my back or whatever, or I've got
yeah,
an eye problem or I've got whatever. And at a certain age, the conversation is always about whatever complaint they have.
yeah. How to lose friends and piss people off. Talk about your health.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
Pat, the health of the nation is more a question for us. So, what? There's a terrible echo there. But anyway,
Was
can
that?
you hear an echo, Pat? No,
No, I
no.
can't hear that. It must be at your
Oh,
end.
okay, well, that'll probably be all right. We're all right on the night. So, Pat,
Yes.
kick it off then and tell us what should we address ourselves to first?
Yeah, I wrote a couple of things. Brian Feeney said the North was it's Brian Feeney, the well-known columnist, says
Yeah.
why he thinks the DUP leader Sir Geoffrey Donaldson is reluctant to return to Stormont. He says the North was created and designed to be run by and for unionists. How then can the DUP ever reconcile going into an executive with a Sinn Féin First Minister? The reality is that many in his party and in unionism as a whole can't. For them, the Irish Sea border is a pretext for avoiding the will of the majority. Now, that's a background. Heaton Harris said at the weekend in an interview that they were now down to the nitty gritty and it's the final stage, and he was hopeful of a return. Sir Geoffrey also said that with an interview with Cool FM that he struck a slightly upbeat note, which is a bit strange. He said that people said that they would never be able to get the British government to return to the negotiating table, but they had done so, and they were in negotiations, etc., etc., etc. Now, Jim, this is all over the place in the sense that the green lane and the red lane were introduced over the weekend, as far as I know.
That's right. Yes,
There
yesterday,
seems,
2 days
you know,
ago.
there's
Yeah.
apparently some of the people like Bryson have sent Sir Geoffrey sort of a warning letter that anybody that agrees to implement the Windsor framework as a traitor type thing, and so on. So, Jude, what I'm really saying is, where the hell are we at with all this?
Well, there's a number of things there. The first one is this thing, and on the face of it, I would agree with you that what's the point in a unionist leader going in to be second dog or second leg to a Sinn Féin First Minister? You could see how that sort of subverts the very existence of the state. But cast your mind back. After the Good Friday Agreement, a far, far, far bigger step was taken by unionism when Ian Paisley went into government alongside Martin McGuinness, who was,
Yeah,
everybody knew, and Guinness happened to say it, that he was a commander in the IRA. So that's a
yeah,
far more radical step than for Geoffrey to have to go back in, or whoever would be the leader of the DUP, than for him to go in and sit alongside Michelle O'Neill. Not that they'd like it, but it's wee buns compared to McGuinness and Paisley. So that would be the thing I would
yeah,
say. And I have no doubt that Sir Geoffrey, if he got a chance, he would get back in there, because it's only the deadweights, it's only the Ian Paisleys, it's only the Sammy Wilsons that see any future in doing what he's doing. Every day they stay out, I think they're adding, they used to say every word spoken in Irish was another bullet in the war against, the war for
yeah,
independence.
yeah,
To some extent, every day that
yeah.
passes is adding to the gravestone on NEI.
Yeah, like the Windsor framework is definitely going ahead, and you sort of find yourself repeating the same things. But let's get this clear: the British government, I think that it's hit home on so many levels that leaving the EU was a real mistake.
Yeah.
Starmer is already on the record as saying that he will try and work more closely with the
Mm.
Now, he's not going to revisit Brexit, but it's a subtle, or what would you say, a euphemistic way he's going about it, that he wants a closer relationship. Joe Biden has told them that there'll be no trade deal, if there's any messing around with the Good Friday Agreement. So the Brits, the big picture for them is, we need international trade. We're a bit isolated in regards to Brexit and so on. Things have not been going good in Britain. There's so many indicators that leave, and then there's also the social things, even things like going on holidays. Brits sitting waiting for hours to get through queues while the EU gets on through. And there's also talk, when the full implementation, that there's going to be major problems for the car industry about taking, in terms of taxation, or cars even built in Britain, where did they go, and all this sort of stuff. So, Jude, a couple of unions in Northern Ireland is not going to be allowed to obstruct that.
Not at all, not at all. Richie Sunak has got enough on his hands, on his plate as well, trying to look after his own skin and look after the skin of the Tories. So I don't think they'd be spending a lot of time awake at night worrying about here. Could I move a wee bit to something connected with this idea of, the north and the south and so on? Bono has come out with a statement, I'm sure you've seen it, where he says, it would be wonderful if we had a united Ireland. And he compares it to dating. And he got a very sharp rejoinder from, was it Gregory Campbell? Said, we don't want any more dates, clear off. Want to be friends? Fine, but keep your hands off me. So he's happy. He's happy to have a platonic relationship. What do you think of the idea that Bono speaks up on this?
Bono's, I've always noticed, is pretty good at predicting which way the wind's blowing, or detecting which way the wind's blowing. And the fact that he's come out with this, what does he say? We're now dating, but we just haven't got engaged yet, type thing.
Yeah.
And so on. But
what did you say that again, Pat? You froze as you said that. So
I think along the line says, we are now dating, but we haven't got engaged yet. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
But what he means to it is the conversation has started, and Judith, that's right. Like, there's a denial in the PUL community that this, and I've read quite frequently various pundits says there's not a chance of United. Dude, that's wishful thinking on their part. We came from nothing in 2016, and so in the space of 7-8 years, it's now mainstream. There was no talk at all about United Ireland, and we've mentioned this before. But Jude, this is now mainstream. There's coming at it from every which direction.
Yeah.
And even the last days, we mentioned Sinn Féin are at top of the polls, very much so in the south of Ireland. And Bono has always been very careful. But I think even he can see the writing on the wall that United Ireland is now mainstream, and it's time to engage in the conversation.
Yeah. I was thinking, that image he has of dating and falling in love and marriage and so on, it's a bit dodgy, because it's just asking for somebody to say who's going to screw who.
Of course it is.
At the first opportunity.
Reverse something you said when we were chatting about Rishi Sunak, and it is a digression. But what do you make of last week? I thought nobody introduced that now he's going to become the motorist's friend. That this whole thing about electric cars is going to be pushed down for another 10 years or something. That there's going to be no change in diesel, or they're going ahead with. I think looking for more gas and oil out in the sea, fossil fuels, etc., etc., etc. What do you make of that? I read somewhere, I think it was Chris Donnelly said, is there a more cynical party that the whole environment issue, they don't give a shit about it. They don't give a shit about the future of our kids. Everything's about self-interest and self-promotion. Do you think that's a fair observation about the way Tories are going
definitely.
Right
but you said yourself last day, Pat, first objective of every party, every individual politician, is to be elected. Now, Rishi Sunak and the Tories are facing not oblivion, but certainly severe defeat if they don't do something spectacular. So I guess this is what he's clinging on to. Yeah. And with a lot of Tories, the idea of, this is a little hogwash, or at least if too much fuss is made about the ecology and the environment and so on. Besides, we want our motorways from zoom up and down. We want our car. Tell me, don't ask me to change my car. I've always driven a car like this, and I'll keep on driving it. So he's sort of playing to them, and it's kind of understandable, but it's wrong. It's wrong, and he will find out it's wrong. I think there are enough half sensible people in Britain that will reject all of his policies. Could I go back for a minute to Bono? You dismissed Bono very lightly there, Pat. I think Bono deserves respect. I was reminded of the eve of the Good Friday. Was the eve of the Good Friday Agreement or the eve of power sharing? The famous scene was at the Waterfront Hall where John Hume and David Trimble, Bono comes between the two and does holds up their armpits to show that they use links. You know, it could have been an awful lot, like, because many of the time a person finds their oxters and the sweat is soaked through the shirt and shows us a terrible scene. Oh, but the arms up. My heart was in my mouth. It really was. But here, is it any of Bono's business, when you think about it, is it any of Bono's business to be making pronouncements on politics?
I've got a thing about pop stars making pronouncements on politics, because I think, like, why are they more qualified than anybody else? And yet they have this big audience, you know. But anyway, let's get to answer your question. Bono has been, by the way, isn't he whatever a certain age now? He's been engaged for years. He remember during the Iraq War, he was seen with George W. He was a big friend of Clinton's. He was involved big time in 1985 with the what do you call it? Jesus, remember the Bob Geldof thing? For the famine in Ethiopia. And so on. And he's been engaged. Hasn't he got some organization, a charitable organization?
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Here, I always think there's a massive contradiction in Bono. They moved their operations out of Ireland, the business operations of U2, and took it to Holland or Monte Carlo, I can't.
Yeah, Holland, I think, yeah.
So in other words, it's all very well to help people, but he doesn't want to pay tax over here, or U2 don't want to pay tax over here. Then the other thing is he owns property at Monte Carlo, where it's one of the most expensive real estates in the world, where the houses start about 10 million, and he has a big house there, and so on. So Jude, like, I think 10 million would have helped a lot of starving kids in Ethiopia, but that's only me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, I suppose it's better that a billionaire should show some concern for poor people and maybe even funnel some money their way. That's better than being a multi-billionaire and not giving anything. But there's something ironic about the whole thing. But I still come back to this question. Do these people play any role in politics? Should they play any role in politics, these entertainers? Because there's a long tradition of them. You go back to JFK, the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra. Was it who was it? Was it Jimmy Carter or somebody that had Paul Simon sang on it? JFK had, what's his name? Robert Frost reciting poetry. So again and again, you have these entertainers linked with politics. Does that sound to you like a good idea or a bad idea? Or the wolf tones more closely?
I know it, and Barack Obama got Maya Angelou.
What do you think?
Anyway, right.
Does it matter?
Maybe we're all a wee bit critical. Bruce Springsteen was a big supporter there of what do you call him, Joe Biden, and all other Democrats that he supported them. And when I see a lot of stuff that Springsteen does, like during the miners' strike in Britain, he gave him a massive contribution to the strike in miners, and he has influence. And I suppose, Jude, all the rest of it, you know, I suppose if you support the singers and the entertainers who reflect your views, and you think those who don't support your views should keep their noses out of it. But Jude, the reality is, if you're an entertainer and you've got a platform and you've got political views, you know, who's to stop you? And you can say it's undue influence, and maybe some of them are clowns, but the reality is they have, you know, sure, look at Trump. absolutely got elected without mainstream media. He used all these social media,
Uh,
and it's out there, Jude, and it's available to use. So if you're an entertainer and you want to support Donald Trump or Joe Biden,
hmm.
and you take your choice, and you probably have a lot of influence.
So
And it's,
two
whether it's right
questions.
or wrong, it's done.
You do think it affects people? People would look at it and say, "Oh well, if
Oh, it does. Yeah, it
Bono
does.
or whatever,
Yeah.
maybe I should too." But that would that influence you?
No, I wouldn't. Hey, Jude, but here's the point. Let's get this
Come
on
on,
record.
Ryan,
I don't mean
Pat,
this the way
answer
it
the
sounds, but
question.
me and
Answer
you
the
are political
question.
nerds.
Would that influence you?
I no, but I've seen it, Jude. A whole lot of people, they don't pay a lot of attention, and suddenly if Bruce Springsteen or some right wing guys comes out and says, Springsteen says, "Look, vote Joe Biden." A lot of people who are very busy lives, who are going to work and say, "Well, if it's good enough for Bruce Springsteen, it's good enough for me," type thing. Yeah, they do influence. There's no doubt about that. Whether they should or shouldn't, there's another issue.
I have to ask myself, because logically speaking, they shouldn't influence you at all because they're just another guy. What the
No,
hell do some entertainer know about politics? And yet, if
exactly.
they throw the wit behind it and you like the singer, there's a part of you that says, "Oh, good, good, good." And
Yeah,
politicians know that, and they like to cluster
yeah,
these people around them where the opportunity arises. I just find that
yeah.
very interesting. Uh, Back to Bono again, and what was it that Bono? What else were we saying about Bono there? That he,
I know what you're getting at, Jude. The weekend, you
yes,
two, they have taken up a residency
uh,
in Las Vegas at this place called the Sphere.
jeez.
Now, that's typical American. Everything. This building has cost somewhere in the region of 2 billion quid. In fact, it could be considerably more because apparently there's some. It is apparently you can see it from miles away. It's they say the visuals are out of this world now. Whatever that means, I really don't know.
Uh,
But apparently, you two are getting paid at least $1 million a night.
uh,
They were originally scheduled to play 12 nights, as far as I remember, but they're now doing 25. So for less than a month's work, they're going to get $25 million. Now, well, that's $25 million after tax and whatever, but whatever. I'm sure they'll be taking home at least $20 million. So between the four of them and so on, it's a nice wee earner for a month.
and there was me thinking Mo Salah was doing very well on $1 million a week. Uh, and,
Yeah,
and, and Bono is really raking in it.
yeah,
But then Las Vegas has always been very big that way. I mean, Elvis went fat and flashy and made a mint. So they tend to opt for it. And a
yeah.
lot of show band people, wasn't there? Who was the show band guy that spent a lot of his time in Las Vegas?
Excuse me. I was. You just got the first guy, Irish guy, to star and made a big career out of
Brenton
in
Boyer.
Las Vegas.
Brenton Boyer, was it?
Exactly. He got for. They went out for a week during Lent, and about somewhere in the 1960s, and they stayed for 40 years.
It brings me back to simpler times when you say they went out during Lent. That was because there was no dances during Lent. Mamma mia. When you stop
Anyway,
and think about it. And there used to be no
dance halls in Ireland. Go ahead.
cinemas, Pat, were cinemas always open on a Sunday when you were young?
Jesus, I can't answer that. I think they were.
I don't think they were.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
they
think they
were
were,
open
but
during
our
Lent, no
place.
matter.
I've an
Yeah,
issue they
they
weren't.
were. Aye, but I remember dance halls in Donegal during Lent, and my youth used to close down.
Seems really strange. And they, of course, state meat on a Friday was mortal sin. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Change times. Okay, throw another one at me. We've done with you two. He really is a self-seeking little jerk. I think Bono. I can't stand him. I can't whistle a single tune he has written, yet everybody thinks he's absolutely brilliant. And that's one thing I share with not Jeffrey Donaldson, but Gregory Campbell. One thing I share with him is he doesn't like you, Bono, and I don't like him either.
No, Bono and what do you call him? Bob Geldof are two
I
people
got two of
that
them. There was,
yeah.
well, there is not ironic. Both of those men did good work for the starving world, and yet we sort of detest the both of them. That's quite a trick to pull that off.
But know someone, Bono or not Bono, Geldof. I regard, it's my opinion that he's a hypocrite. Like he sneers at Banana Republic Ireland, and he doesn't attack Banana Republic Britain. In fact, he's part of the establishment. He's Sir Bob Geldof. So take anybody that that expresses his point of view. Surely he should have said, "There's no way I'm accepting knighthood or part of the establishment from Britain, considering its role in Ireland and all the rest. Not a word of it. Anyway, that's
The
a
other
political.
thing is, of course, he's a bit of a motor mouth. He's a smart aleck.
Absolutely.
He always comes up with a
Aye.
quick rejoinder, and
Aye.
you'd rather he fell flat in his face, but he's smart that way.
Aye.
He's part of course.
Well,
He
this is the
went
guy,
to
by the way.
Blackrock or somewhere in Dublin, didn't he? Private school.
Blackrock, yeah.
Yeah.
But remember during that massive concert in 1985,
Yeah.
he put himself in the boom Brown Rats on the list, and they were a nobody band. They had a couple hits. They were minor. Nobody thinks they're major.
Well, that's true. Everybody thinks, well, he thinks they're great too. But I have to say, I've always liked that. I thought that was a really, really good pop song. I Don't Like Mondays. I thought that was really terrific. Yeah. Very well produced.
Yeah.
All
right. All right. They won big hit.
Other than that, I don't know a single one.
Yeah. Anyway, here,
okay,
moving on.
Next on the list, Pat. Who's next for kicking?
On Saturday morning, sometimes I'm an early spin. I was just going through social media and see what's happening. And I noticed there's an article in the Belfast Telegraph by the journalist Garrett Harrigan. I think he's Derry originally, but anyway.
Sounds Donegal to me. Most of the Harrigans came from Donegal when I was young.
Harrigan, not Harrigan.
Oh, Harrigan. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No, Harrigan's a big Donegal. Anyway, Garrett this article. Basically, I'm sure you would remember, you're of a similar vintage to myself. I remember early 1960s, there was this thing called the Lockwood Report, which decided that despite the fact that there was a university already in situ in Derry, Magee College, that the North Second University should be built in this little place called Coleraine, a unionist market town, in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, that was the decision. Apparently, the Department of Labour told Lockwood not to site it in Derry in the 60s. Anyway, Richard, let's get the show on the road here. Basically, what flowed from that, and so many people will now tell you, that was the sort of the match that lit the fuse for the civil rights movement, which lit the fuse for the troubles that came down the track. The nationalist community had just had enough, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it hasn't gone away, that whole thing. On Saturday, Garrett Harrigan had a thing whereby the Department for the Economy and the EU have just spent another, I think it's 174 million on Belfast, the EU in Belfast. But with the new decade, new approach, about 10 years ago, there was a deal or an agreement between the two governments that money would be spent on Magee College and Derry, that that they would try and get up to 10,000 students located at Magee. So far, Jude, there's less than half that, or at best half that. Very little money has been spent on Magee. And Garrett Harrigan had this on an article on Friday. The response from the Derry University Group was this: what the department had done. They had provided, according to DUG, DUP ministers with quote unquote an tax sheet to say why money shouldn't be spent in Derry. And basically what they're saying is nothing's changed, that the department, of course, have denied this totally. They said all information they supplied to DUP ministers was factual and impartial. The DUP the Derry University Group are not buying that. They said basically it was just another example of why not to spend money in Derry. But anyway, Jude, my only thing, I met a man last week to continue on the same, who told me that there are 18 to 20 TV production, visual production things in Belfast. 18 to 20. There's one opening next year. I think it's called Ulster Studio, and it's a cost of 72 million.
Good God.
There's not a single one of those in Derry. And some of it's out of the public purse. And in 2021, there was roughly 11 million dispersed by the Arts Council. 7% went to Derry, 83% went to Belfast. Now, does that seem equitable to you? The second city gets 7%. But here, I'm going to wrap up now. This is a town of Seamus Heaney, Brian Friel, the Undertones, Derry Girls. You can keep on going, so on, Folk Coulter, whatever. There's a rich culture here. There's rich Irish culture and all the rest of it. You show it on. What's really happened the the Derry University group are now saying they want to break away from Ulster University. They want to amalgamate or form an alliance with the University in Letterkenny, the University in Sligo, and the University in Galway. They want to stand independent of the UU. The mistrust has got so high that this is where we're at now. So, Jude, how much has changed since 1964 when Lockwood introduced the first Lockwood report?
I remember being in the BBC a long time ago before they set the dogs on me. And any time that Derry came up, now it wasn't a question, it was a Londonderry thing at all. It was, they essentially, they would smile and laugh, and they essentially what they were saying in so many words was, Derry ones are awful whingers. They're always whinging about something. So that's the attitude that is always obtained. And I'd say there's a lot of people who would still say the same thing. They've gone out of university. Now they want another one. They want a different. It's not good enough. Or they look at them anything. The third thing is, of course, they've starved Derry. Of course, they've starved it. Derry was where the civil rights movement started. And they know the kind of resistance that Derry put up during the Troubles. And they don't like it. They don't like nationalist cities. They'd much rather have a unionist city. Mind you, again, this is a bit like Jeffrey Donaldson going back into Stormont. Belfast is no longer a unionist city. Belfast is certainly not a unionist city. It may not be a totally Republican one either, but more people who are elected are from other parties than unionist parties. So they've kind of, time has caught up with them. My instinct is this. I think Derry should be bolder. The Derry University lot should be bolder. They should, get into negotiations with Letterkenny and Sligo and so on. Really get the nuts and bolts together of one unified cross-border university, high caliber staff and students available and all, and then go to the Irish government and the British government maybe and say, how about it? How about it? You're always talking about cooperation, cross-border cooperation. You always talk about reconciliation. That's exactly what we want to do now. Give us your support. Give us the kind of money we need to help us do this. We've put all the effort into it. We've got the whole thing sorted out. Give us the green light. I think they should do that. I think they should really put the kind of pressure on that would make it almost impossible for the likes of Leo Varadkar or Micheál Martin to say no, or even the Secretary of State to say no. Do you not think so, Pat?
Absolutely. See, Jude, what it basically happened was after sort of putting up a big case why they shouldn't help McGee, that it's very expensive and it would be a massive capital commitment, they suddenly found 126 million to bail out UU Belfast, which rose to 174 million. But here's the other thing. Derry University Group asked two questions. Where was the department's, the two governments gave a commitment to raise McGee to 10,000 students. There's the Department for the Economy had a big case for why they should spend money in Belfast. DUG asked them, where's your statement or your analysis for spending money on Derry to get it up to 10,000? And then they asked, where's the Ulster University's statement or analysis and research paper to do the same? And as far as I am presuming, neither exists because they haven't bothered us doing it. So, Jude, it's ongoing, and there is outrage in Derry. It's a growing outrage that there's sort of this sort of thing is, Derry's the second city, Jude, but it's so if the analysis is as simple as one, the first city gets 83% and the second gets 7%. That's a hell of a long way when you're the second.
But I mean, they're only building a road to it now. They're only now building a road from Belfast to Derry. I mean, that speaks volumes. I think, again, I would say there's everybody can see why there's good reasons why Derry people would be angry, and particularly this thing about the university. But I would add to that, there's no point in being angry. No point in kicking the furniture. Do something. Do something so you really put the squeeze on these people. And the only thing I can think of is it should be possible for them to put together a plan, a projection of what this university that they have in mind would look like, what it would require, how much money costed, do all the details in terms of supply of students, staff, etc., buildings, and then put it to them. they might find it a wee bit harder to say no to that than they would to some just general thing about we'd like a university.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel the same way about it as I do about a border poll. I think that we should be putting pressure on the governments, certainly the Southern government, in terms of setting up a citizens' assembly. And about they've set up a citizens' assembly about what was it? What was it that they're coming up with? They've just they're going to
was
make
it
a
drugs
report
policy?
soon. What was it? Do you know?
I think it's drugs policy, Jude. I
Drugs
think, I'm
policy.
not
That's
sure.
right. Drugs. Well, I mean, I would say that a border poll would be at least as important. So I saw Mary Lou talking on YouTube at a meeting and saying that once again she was calling on the Taoiseach to set up a citizens' assembly to examine the border poll question. Now I can see how it's tricky for Sinn Féin at the moment because they want to keep the focus on the housing thing and on health, and they're fearful, I think, maybe that if they go on too much about the border, they might lose some of the people that they're presently right behind them. But at the same time, I think they should be sending the word out to other groups and people generally who feel strongly about these things, that they would have. There must be ways of putting pressure on Leo Varadkar. If you really think a citizens' assembly is a good thing and necessary for the United Ireland or a border poll, then we should be doing something about it. There are organizations, there's enough goodwill for it to happen. I just think we should stop, saying, oh, it'd be great if we would. Something should be done. Who was it said that? The Queen Mother said that.
Here's what's that?
The Queen Mother said that. It was during the Second World War. She visited a blitzed part of London, and it was seen as a very gracious gesture. And the Queen Mother picked her way through the rubble, and she then said, "Oh dear, something should be done."
Yeah, if you're in Derry city centre and you were coming to Donegal, coming out to Donegal, you'd come down the Strand Road and you'd turn left onto the Buncrana Road and come out to Donegal. Right, Jude, let me explain. If you're going out the Buncrana Road, it's a single track road, one car going this way and one, but it's not even a dual carriageway, much less. This is the main route into the Republic of Ireland, out of the second biggest city in Northern Ireland. Right. Let's switch now totally. If you're going into Coleraine, you go in on a motorway, a big wide motorway into Coleraine, and you go through Coleraine. There's a bypass, a motorway as well. And if you want to go to Ballymena, there's a big motorway that takes you there. And if you want to go to Portadown, it takes a motorway there. And if you want to go to Belfast, there's a motorway to take you there from Coleraine. And in fact, if you're driving into Coleraine, the grass verges at the side are bigger than the roadway on the way out from Derry to Donegal. And you sort of go, wait a minute, somebody could say, oh, there are those Derry ones whinging again. But the reality is, Jude, there has been a deliberate policy. It's ongoing and so on. Now, I don't know who you point the finger at. Is it the Stormont? Is it the civil service? Is it the planners? I don't know. But somebody somewhere has questions to answer about how long does it take before something is done. There should be, as you rightly point out, they're only finishing now. In fact, it only opened about last year, the motorway between Derry and Belfast, the two main cities. And the last place to get a motorway into it was Derry.
Yeah. I think maybe the time for lamenting these things is over. I mean, if you think about it, if John Hume had stopped way back in the old days, if he had stopped at the stage of saying, really bad, I'll sort of way into this co-op thing and, we'll try to make life better for people. If he had stopped there and hadn't set up the civil rights movement and led it so effectively, and then if during the period of conflict there hadn't been such fierce opposition to the Brits, nothing would have changed. Nothing would have changed. And look at the change that has been wrought now. But it wasn't because people like John Hume or Martin McGuinness or anybody like that sat back and says, this is really awful, this isn't fair. They get off their asses and they did something big. I really ache for that kind of action. I really do. I think there's room. I mean, there's politicians, maybe it's Sinn Féin, I'm not sure who it is, for them, actually, I suppose the timing is part of it. They're supposed to be afraid to do anything. Sinn Féin would be afraid to do too much in terms of equality in the north or north-south things. They want to focus on the housing situation in the southern state. But once that'd be out of the way, once this next election comes, I hope to God they really begin to pitch in and say, this isn't good enough. We can't have, in a time we're supposed to be equality, a city that has been denied a university, has been denied industry, and even denied bloody roads. This is just going to stop. If we've got all the makings of a university, I mean, when you stop to think about it, it would be a fantastic university you could devise there. Derry, across the border to the absolute wonders of Donegal, and then down to Sligo. I mean, that's just a slice of heaven there, you know. So
the other thing as well, the university, there's two things. A lot of Northern Ireland pupils or students emigrate to England or sort of flow over to across the pond to study. Secondly, they admit that a lot of the courses in Derry are oversubscribed many times over. So there must be a demand in Derry. So why is that not being channeled? Why not say introduce real courses today? But by the way, I can't remember the name of it. John Hume, there's sort of a thing Tip O'Neill gifted to John Hume, a sort of a history and politics thing specifically for Derry. It was moved out almost in the dead of night to Belfast. So the very thing about the man who brought it there, John Hume, a Derry man, the thing that there was, it was basically, I can't remember. Jude, I wish I could remember now. I think it's Impact something or other. I can't, or Encore, and it was moved to Belfast. The people of Derry were never consulted, you know, and all this sort of stuff. And by the way, they're also trying now to say they're trying to rebrand Magee as Ulster University. They've dropped them the term Magee. So I presume, So I think that's deliberate as well to sort of to halt at the pass. You know, this growing movement for and the. And they're sort of saying you're part of us, whether you like it or not.
Well, my final words, Pat, as the clock ticks down to the ultimate goodbye, is don't get mad, get even. Don't get mad, get even. In other words, insist on equality. Don't ask for it, insist on it. And I think if people really approached it in that frame of mind, there'd be some changes. As it stands, my experience of Belfast ones, and I suppose the British as well, and Dublin as well, they just shrug their shoulders. Bunch of whingers up in Derry. It's quite nice scenery, but they're always whinging, so I say, gear yourself for action. Strap on your breastplate. Pick up your sword, and head to the front. Okay, Pat, have you a song to sing before you leave? Okay. No song today. Okay. I don't like Mondays either. Okay.
I don't like Mondays. I don't like Bob Geldof either, but that's neither here nor there.